This Week in Radio Tech, episode 162, is brought to you by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or TV instantly. All streamed directly to you, saving you time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/GFQ. And by Telos and Axia Audio. With over 53,000 live-wire connected broadcast products in use every day. Visit Telos and Axia on the web at telosalliance.com.
And now, our feature presentation.
Twert.
What's going to be new at NAB? What equipment, software, and services will engineers be asking about? And what's the SBE up to?
All right, calm down. He says that to everyone.
This calls for immediate discussion.
What's up, Doc?
All your days are belong to us.
From his palatial office of important business, or in a choice hotel in a distant land, this is Kirk Harnack.
Tom Ray and Chris Tobin join me for a preview of the NAB show. What to expect and what to look for.
You're dialed in to This Week in Radio Tech.
Hey, it's time for This Week in Radio Tech. I can't wait. It's going to be a good show. We're going to talk about the NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters, Expo, Convention, Confab, whatever you call it. And we're going. I'm going. And Tom Ray, who unfortunately is not on the show today yet, he may pop in later. Tom's going. And Chris Tarr, who's not on the show also, is not going. So we got to bring him back some candy or something. And Chris Tobin, who is on the show, is going. You got all that straight? There's going to be a test later. Let's say hi to Chris Tobin, our co-host on today's show. Hey, Chris.
Hello, Kirk. Hello, everyone in the viewing audience, not the studio audience, but the viewing audience. It's all about the NAB. Here we go. I got front cover of Radio Magazine.
I didn't get that.
I
got it. Oh, man.
I got it's 7 dozen copies arrived this week, along with other things in the mail. Last minute direct mail pieces that just showed up.
I see you get other magazines there, too. You don't always put them right side up.
No, that usually means it's in distress, doesn't it? I'm sorry. I just thought I'd have some fun with that.
I thought that was fun. Ooh, all right.
Wait,
hey, well, yes, we have.
He's got a good sense of humor.
Inside jokes. Sorry. Hey, hey, thanks for joining us in the audience. If you've downloaded this podcast, woe be unto you. We are going to have a good time, though. We talk about radio technology and audio technology, RF technology, as we move into the world of where everything's digital, or most everything is. We talk about that. Then all the transitions. In fact, today I had a great conversation with the chief engineer of the Nashville CBS television affiliate. And just a terrific conversation about using the public open internet for transporting important on-air television signals, like camera feeds coming from remote places. Really interesting. We're gonna get into that. First of all, I want to, after welcoming you in, which I've done, I want to tell you that this show is brought to you by the folks at Axia Audio, my employers. Thank you very much for sponsoring the program. Axia Audio on the web at axiaaudio.com. Axia's going to be introducing a couple of new products at the NAB show. We'll hear more about that in a few minutes. Also, I want to welcome Netflix as a sponsor to This Week in Radio Tech. We'll tell you more about that. We'll tell you what, let's do it right now. Let me tell you about Netflix right now. If you are listening or watching the show and you're not a subscriber to Netflix, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable that you're not. You probably are. So tell you what, tell your friends to sign up and hippo Andrew Zarian at the same time, okay, at the GFQ network. This episode of Twert is brought to you in part by Netflix. Netflix streams thousands, literally thousands, of TV episodes and movies directly to you instantly. Okay, sometimes you got to wait 4 or 5 seconds, but they start really quick. You can save time, money, and hassle by subscribing to Netflix. I'm a subscriber. I have been a subscriber to Netflix for probably 3 years now, and it is awesome. We got it before our little boy was born, and he just uses it all the time. We use it too, but little Michael, man, it's got a section just for kids. In fact, it's called Just for Kids. And it's safe selections for kids, and most client players that play Netflix support this. Not all of them do, but most of them that I've seen do. And so he can easily choose, not scroll through all the PG-13 and R-rated movies. He can just get kid stuff. And it's really great. We can touch anything on there and watch it and have a great time with Curious George, Dora the Explorer, Diego, that annoying Caillou. But it's all there. And he just loves watching all these episodes. It's great entertainment for little Michael. It's great entertainment for mom and dad, too, because there's plenty of movies on there, lots of movies. You can also watch Netflix movies on your Mac or PC or on your iPad. We have the iPad app on all the iPads here at the Harnack House. And you can watch on your iPhone and some Android phones, too. I watch things on my Android phone right here. You can also use your gaming console, Xbox, PS3, Nintendo Wii, or Apple TV box, or your Roku box. Got the app there on the Roku in the master bedroom. So anyway, I would encourage you to check it out if you haven't yet. It's I don't know what I pay. I pay $9 a month and a couple of pennies, something like that. You can begin watching a show, by the way, on one device and then finish it up on a different one. So you got to leave the house. You got to drive down the road. You can drive down the road and watch the rest of the movie right here on your. Well, maybe you better let somebody else drive. You can cancel anytime. What else? You can try it free for 30 days. Go to Netflix, that's with an X, netflix.com/GFQ. I'm told it's capital GFQ, but maybe it'll work either way. But please do try it out. I highly encourage and recommend you to. All right. Chris, are you a Netflix subscriber? Chris Tobin. Oh, he's gone. Okay. All right. Let's start the show then. We're going to talk about the NAB.
No.
Oh,
my mistake.
There you are.
Yes. To your answer to your question of Netflix, yes, from day one when they first started mailing them out, and yeah.
And of course,
It's been good.
I quit the DVD thing. We used the DVD thing for a while, and then of course that became passe. And Comcast gave me enough bandwidth to watch literally 2 or 3 movies at the same time. And I've just been amazed at some of the quality on some of the movies. I don't know if it's all of them or what, but we've watched some movies that I guess they're 720, and they look they look really good. All right. What's coming up at NAB? Let's run through some preview items. The folks at Radio World put together a pocket preview guide every year, and a lot of it's advertising. A lot of it's product announcements. And hey, that's one reason you go to NAB. I guess there's 3 reasons. You go to NAB to see new products. You go to NAB for some of the conferences. If you're fully registered or have a Flex Pass, you can go to some of the conferences and maybe hear about new technologies sooner than anybody else. And you go there to meet with colleagues, other engineers. Go have a beer with somebody. Chris, why do you go to NAB?
For those reasons. I enjoy the fact that I can talk to folks, the different manufacturers, different vendors.
And you are a manufacturing
Absolutely.
vendor now. Yeah.
Yes, but I still have curiosities that need to be satisfied.
Well, last year I ran around and interviewed some manufacturers on video and found a few things that I just thought were fascinating. One of them was from ERI. They had this combiner that lets you combine an HD transmitter and a regular FM transmitter. And instead of the 9 dB loss combining for the HD, where you're throwing away, 85%, 90% of the power into the...
it's about 90, usually about 90%.
Yeah, they had one that was much less, and I forget if it was 2 or 3 dB, but it was something like that. It was a very lower loss combiner. This is a real trick to take an FM signal, at 20,000 watts, and right next to it, just to the left, just to the right, in terms of frequency, insert something that is 1/100th or 1/10th the power, and have all that come out right in the end. That's a trick.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a balancing act that you got to be careful with. But yeah, the old high-level combiners, which I used for my HDs when I was doing some work with that, we had a dummy load in the transmitter room that was generating lots of heat. It was handy for warming up those sandwiches on the overnights when you're doing work. But yeah, it was a 10 kilowatt. No, we had 8 kilowatts out, and we put 100 watts in. Yeah, it was about 800 watts into this dummy load. It was crazy.
Yeah. Oh. I mean,
it was just hot. I was like,
some HD stations have had to put their dummy load outside because it just makes way too much heat for the inside.
Well, the transmitter rooms I was talking about with the Empire State Building, I don't think you'd like to see one of those bird elements sitting outside the window.
No, you can't. Man, those things can make some heat. And what we're talking about, we'll get on to the NAB here in a second. What we're talking about is, when you combine high level combining FM and HD with a 9 dB combiner, there's a lot of loss there. And the big FM signal loses about a dB or 1.1 dB something, 10% or so some amount of power. But the poor little HD, which is you just bought a brand new HD transmitter. You had to buy a 1,000-watt transmitter so you can get 100 watts. Up the pipe to the FM antenna, or maybe bigger than that, because you're going to throw 90% of it away as heat. That's a lot of money to spend on a linear transmitter that amplifies these digital carriers, and then throw 90% of all that work right out the window and turn it into heat.
Yeah, and don't forget, there are two transmitters running. So if your primary transmitter, the analog one, goes off the air for some reason, you're still transmitting a signal in HD. That doesn't go off with it.
Right. And depends, of course, with high level combining, it doesn't. With low level or
high level
split level combining, then it could stay on. All right. Hey, here's a company that's going to be showing it at NAB, and I like these guys. It's a company called Arctic Palm. Arctic Palm. Yeah, you know these
those
guys.
Are great guys.
Paperless Studio from Arctic Palm. Stu Buck is there, and if you're in the business of doing stuff with RDS, it's a great company to deal with. By the way, I'm going to be mentioning some companies that compete with Telos Omnia Axia products. So don't think I've left the reservation or something. It's just being fair to everybody. So if you RDS, they do streaming metadata for streaming. Arctic Palm also does call screening software. Happens to work with all of our gear. So
they do a lot of ingenious little things that you can use to integrate with your automation systems. I used them for some stuff years ago in the early days of Arctic Palm, and they were good people. They understood. They knew exactly how the workflow should go and how to integrate with your automation systems. So it's definitely something to look at.
They're a Canadian company. Funny name, Arctic Palm. And if you haven't met Stu Buck, he's a delightful man and really knows his stuff. Knows his stuff just inside and out. At my little radio stations in American Samoa, we have the Arctic Palm Center Stage Live software to aggregate our RDS information. It gets information from the automation system, plus it inserts, scheduled messages in RDS. And we've had this stuff installed for years now. It used to be a serial connection from the automation to the computer that was running Arctic Palm, which would then spit the data out. I somehow got it over to our RDS generator. I forget how. I guess serial. But now it's connected via IP to the automation system. That's kind of cool that, it just required a little change there. We're already on the same network anyway. And when we put this on the air, RDS, this was back, must have been 8 years ago or so in American Samoa. We had no way to test it. We didn't have, one of those Denon rack mount receivers that shows you the RDS output. So we had to go find a car that had RDS. We had to look all through the Ford dealer's parking lot to find a car that had RDS, but we did. Have you ever had to do that, Chris? How do you monitor RDS at stations where you actually have some gear?
Oh, we purchased tuners that had RDS decoding in them. But in the early days, yes, it was taking a car radio out of the car, mounting it in a rack in a mid-Atlantic shelf, customized front plate, and doing it that way. But nowadays you can get RDS pretty easily. But yes, in the early days, it was a hunt and peck, and okay, who on staff has a car that does RDS? Huh? What's that? Okay, never mind. Next, yes, that's pretty much what we went through.
we actually found 3 cars on the lot at the Ford dealer in American Samoa. We found 3 of the cars, and they probably had, 30 cars on the lot. So 10% of the cars had it. Hey, let's move on. Here's something else. This is cool. From Audio Science, they're introducing HD radio, DAB, and DA plus sound cards. These are tuner cards that go, obviously it's a, what's that called? A PCI Express?
PCI Express, yes. Those are nice cards.
So I would imagine there's some, let's see what they do. They either 4 or 8 tuners on a sound card that can be independently programmed to receive analog FM, HD radio in the FM band only, or any channel from any DAB or DAB plus multiplex in band 3. It will record that audio and I don't know if it'll do metadata along with that. That'd be cool. Recording formats are PCM, so linear, layer 2, and MP3. Odd that you'd think they put AAC in there, but anyway. Oh yeah, it can decode and stream the HD radio pad data and the RDS data from analog FM. HD radio multicast is supported, allowing the audio and pad stream to be switched between the main program service and secondary services under software control. Okay, so just not all at once. Maybe you could tune several tuners to the same station to different streams. That's kind of cool. Here's the question I thought of, though, Chris, when I saw this. Chris, what do you think about the future of peripherals, which are PC cards? Do you think that this is a model going on? It's been a model for the last 20 or 25 years for broadcasters, almost 30 years, come to think of it. With sound cards.
I don't think high quality sound cards or peripheral cards as it may. I believe they'll still be around, and here's why. That particular card that you have in the ad you have there has its built-in DSPs on the card, so it does all the processing for that work on the card. It does not offload it to the CPU as some of their other audio cards do, along with the other manufacturers. That is still needed. Anybody who thinks you're going to do everything in software with one CPU and a motherboard, that's not happening. And ARM processors are doing really well, and yes, they're very powerful, but it's going to be a while before anybody starts building stuff that we as broadcasters can use in the same fashion that we're accustomed to with these cards that you'll be plugging into a PCI Express slot or something else. But yeah, I think they'll be around for a while. It's just the question of the need and the smarts about building them.
Yeah. Well, as audio engineers, we always said that the PC environment is fairly hostile to high quality audio. If you're talking about analog audio in and out, you can sure pick up a lot of junk, and the noise floor's pretty high. I guess if you're doing, certainly if you're doing live wire or another, IP audio type over the network, then this notion doesn't come into play. If you're doing AES EBU in and out, then it does. But of course, they're using it as a platform to provide power to a tuner and to give you a place to put that F connector to bring antenna feed in. And then run those tuners with the decoders. I guess I have no idea what that card costs. Let's imagine that it's a couple grand for 8 tuners. I don't know. It
could be. I don't know.
Yeah. What would be the alternative to doing that as an appliance? Would that cost a couple grand for 8 tuners? It might well.
Well, see, you have to look at it in the terms of what are you willing to design and put together as a footprint. In one of the facilities I used to work at, we had no choice but to build out a complete rack of tuners, breaking out the audio and all the metadata that we needed for the various applications that card can do in one slot or 2 or 3, depending on what we're trying to do with it. So it's a question of what you're willing to put up with. Yes, you could do discrete, I'll call it discrete design, and you have tuners breaking out to everything you need in the market, or you can do it on 2 or 3 cards. And then there's a question of, do you pay for upfront making sure you have a server class computer you're putting it in? Because something like that, I looked at that audio science card before they did the DAB plus options. It was strictly, I believe, HD and FM. And to do that system right with server class computer and everything else, it was a couple of grand, but it took up very small footprint, did a lot in the small footprint. It was easily managed over the network. There's a lot of things that you have to look at. If you just look at cost only or just the idea of a box replacement, you'll get burned. But I think unfortunately budgets are tight, so it's hard to say which way some people might want to go.
I guess my biggest problem with a card-based solution, a card that goes in a computer, is most of the time, if for most cards you would buy, that computer needs to be running Windows. I realize not all the time. There are others too. And I guess we all know how to deal with Windows, and maybe not everybody hates it as much as I do. But the maintenance, just you're always getting. I mean, and what if you need Java to run an application that came with the card? Well, there's a Telos product or two that need that. Man, and all the malware updates and running Microsoft security, whatever it is, and it's just odd. It just seems like a lot of work just to take care of the operating system that is running an application, and we're just using a small portion of the operating system to run the app, to run the board. Am I just whining, or is this something worth
Well,
complaining
no,
about?
no. There is something to be said for that. I can tell you from personal experience. I've done this in my previous jobs as well as some consulting work I've done recently over the last year. Yes, there are some workflows that you do need to do a PC-based hardware, whether it be server or a PC workstation, whatever you want to call it. But you can come up with workflows that will allow you to maintain the updates and keep the machine running the way it should and give you the class of service you expect. The part that I always ran into the issue with, the issue I ran into is the IT mentality. The IT managers, IT departments, whatever you want to call it, has been such that no one pays attention to why you turn off certain things. Like, take, for instance, universal plug and play. Okay, we all know the security issues. We'll put that aside. Let's talk about what the stupid UPnP does with devices, peripherals plugging into a machine, whether it be USB or whatever. That alone is enough to screw up any machine, no matter how good you clean it up or how good you design it. Because universal plug and play is designed to override everything and just go in there and screw up the works. Turn that off. Then you turn off other things. Once you get yourself in this platform, you got a certain checklist done. You can make it work. You could do it several dozen times with machines and go through a year without having issues until that one IT person decides to do something stupid. Log in as administrator, forget to log out as administrator, machine continues running as administrator, and something goes wrong because the network gets... That's where you run into more of the problems. And you're right. I wouldn't say you're whining. You're definitely pointing out a flaw in the way I think we approach the workflow on a PC platform. There's ways to make it work. Is it worth it? It really depends on your application, but I still think there's a place for it. You just have to be more diligent. It's just one of those things. If you don't do it right, you don't understand why things do what they do, you get burned. I mean, look at Skype. Skype is designed to take over everything on the machine. It's designed to take every resource it can find. I read through the paperwork on it, the driver, what do you call it, the whole protocol set. And half the commands are like, grab this, grab that, do this, do whatever you have to do. And think about it. Plug in something while you're using your computer. What happens to Skype? It goes berserk. Same thing happens with the audio science card. Guaranteed. You got that thing running. You got your HD channels. You're doing all your stuff. And all of a sudden you plug in this USB memory stick because you want to download something. Oh, universal plug and play hits or something else. Guess what? CPU has to give a clock cycle to that. Audio science card may say, oh, what's going on here? And you may catch it the wrong time. It locks up. Or maybe not, just hiccups. These are things you have to be prepared to do.
I guess one of the good things about using a full-fledged operating system, I was just thinking about at my radio stations and here at my office. At my radio stations, at each one of them, I've got a computer that I just kind of call a utility computer. And you know what? Come to think of it, we throw everything at it. You know, the RDS functionality, the logging functionality, it's the gateway for using either VNC or TeamViewer or something like that to, for remote access. It probably is assembling our audio weather reports. It's ingesting FTP. It's making FTP available to another station we have to download a newscast. And here at my office, I've got a machine that's running several instances of Shoutcast. It's running an instance of Edcast. Here from my office, I'm streaming the Nashville NOAA weather radio to Wonderground, Weather Underground. So you know what? If you didn't have a full-fledged operating system that could just handle most things that were obviously written for it, but maybe you need some graphics, maybe you don't. Maybe it's going to run as a service. Maybe it's going to pop up and run as an app. Come think of it, I've got a security cam app running on it and a weather app running on it that takes my local weather sensors here and makes them available to me through an interface no matter where I am. All that's happening through that computer, and it doesn't care. It doesn't mind. It's easy. And you know what? Could you do that with Linux? I suppose, but I may not know how to do it with Linux. And you know what? So many of us grew up with Windows that we pretty well know how to deal with it. Maybe that's why we default to it so much. I think you said that.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you have the luxury of putting together a machine with a real-time operating system like a Unix or a Linux-based RTAI kernel, then you got yourself a real robust operating. Off you go. But if you must deal with Windows because your enterprise environment requires it, there are ways to make Windows function pretty close to real-time. I'm not going to say it can because it's not designed that way, but you can emulate that real-time feeling and make it work. I worked with a software for a newsroom operation where we used to log all the various data services coming, audio services, ABC Radio News, AP News, UPI, Reuters, CBS, and a few others. And we made sure that we have 5 PCs and only 2 services per PC were being recorded and archived and logged, and people could access it on the network and chop up the audio and do what they had to do. Another facility that I was aware of that used the same software, same newsroom environment, in a different radio facility, decided they were going to go with the accepted practice, which was 1 PC with 4 audio cards, and off you go and knock yourself out and have fun. I can tell you, in the 1 year that we started up and did our thing, we had only 1 issue with crashing of a machine. In the same time period, the other radio station suffered failures, or I'll say interruptions, approximately every 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes more. And no one could figure out what was going on until they started realizing the CPU load was getting maxed out when there was a breaking story and all of their audio services were feeding bulletins, weather services were coming in. Right.
Yeah.
So, you can make it work, but you've got to really look at the workflow. And some people would laugh at some of the things I used to do, because I used to do stuff and even using the Axia system, I took a different approach with the switches and how I distributed the way my Axia system was working to ensure real-time, always operating during the highest peak needs of the systems. And we never had a failure in that 2-year period, never failed once. So, you can make it work. Not to say that you should consider Windows as a end-all solution, but you have no choice. You got to think about it. You can make it work. But I still come back to, it all works well and good until the IT department gets their hands in it, because they're not familiar with mission-critical broadcast quality, broadcast thinking, the way we do stuff. Because they're in the world of reboot. They reboot. What's wrong with your problem? Oh, let's use the SNL skit as an example. Hey, get out of my way. There's your problem. Get out of here. You're bothering me. They never solved the problem. We all know damn well if you reboot a machine, you've just cleared out all the errors, so you have no idea what happened. Yeah. But we in broadcast engineering take more of a scientific approach and say, why did this happen? What were the conditions that created this failure, or this cause and effect? Did you ever talk to an IT admin and talk to them on that level about something that went wrong on the server? I did several times. It was entertaining. I actually enjoyed myself, because I was like, wow, this guy has no clue what happened to the system. I was trying to explain to him the reason the machine in the studio was failing and not working properly for the callers, what do you call it? The instant messaging they were doing, the chat rooms, wasn't because the machine was a XP Windows. It was only a 1 gig CPU, as I was being told. That was the reason, and the official reason in the emails to everybody. I was trying to explain to him what was known as thermal failure. They put the PC in the furniture in the cabinet in the studio with no ventilation. I measured the temperature of the exhaust on the PC. It was 205 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh my gosh.
That was coming out of the PC. Yeah. Oh. I was like, guys, you got a problem here. The box is overheating. No, it's not. Okay. So I didn't tell anybody one day. I just left the back cover off the furniture, off the pod, and went home for the weekend and came in Monday morning and said, so any trouble reports? How we do in the Air Studio with those chat rooms? Because we had a big weekend of sports and all kinds of celebrity stuff. And somebody goes, it's funny. This is the first time we've had a weekend we had no problems with the computer. I was like, really? About that. Didn't tell anybody what I did. Took pictures of everything I did, put the cover back on. And by that afternoon, the calls were coming in. Oh my goodness, something's wrong. The IT guys were switching out computers, placing orders for new things. They explained the situation. They understood this. The problem was we had this, because of this and that, and the way the jock was handling it and the applications, and it was not set up as a service. I sat there. Really? Is that what it was? Oh, yeah. I broke the news to them that afternoon because I was tired of the BS. And after we put a vent hole in the cover, guess what? That same 1 gigahertz computer ran for about 3 to 4 months before they decided to upgrade the facility to new machines. So, we got to really, the days of old where you could take that Simpson 260 meter and the tone generator or a punch tool, and you go in and do stuff, you just boop, 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 everything works great. Or you're at a transmitter and you're spinning the dial to, to do the grid, get some peaking on the plate current, get some output. Dipping on the plate current and peaking the output. And those days they're gone. It's just the studio now.
Well, they're gone. They're gone. I think the same curiosity that people had to have. I mean, if you have a Simpson 260 voltmeter and you're fixing a transmitter with it in 1973, you couldn't just reboot the transmitter to fix the problem and walk away. You had to find the problem, right?
Exactly.
Well,
today
that's
with the
that's
solid state
mentality
transmitters,
we
if you
need to carry
restart them, they
now.
blow up.
Well, see, that's the mentality we need to carry now. That we need to find the problem, not just reboot it and there you go, it's fixed.
Yeah, and that's what I think. Who was I talking to just recently? I had somebody call me. Somebody called about something we had talked about on one of our shows. I got a phone call. Some guy tried to explain to me why I was wrong about something. I said, dude, I'm going to give you an example, and you tell me what the answer is. And I told him, I said this, give this scenario, I should say an example. And he gave me this answer. I said, well, see, that's the problem. You really didn't look at the situation. You just made an assumption, and that assumption led you down a path that got you nowhere any closer to the solution. It just fixed it for the moment, and hours later it came back. I said, nobody, that's what you have to look for. We'll go back to that 1970s example. Back in the day when you had a transmitter issue and you had arcing on the, if it was an AM tower and you had arcing on the transmission system, what did you do? Did you just put the transmitter full blast and see if you could blow out the parts that were in trouble? Or did you systematically go from point to point and see what was causing it? Or maybe you had icy conditions. Whether it was, ice storm rolled into town during the winter and your FM transmitter was backing down on power. You just assume, oh, the problem is this, and you just crank it up. No. You understood why, and you looked at it, and you said, okay, here's what's going on. You're right. You're absolutely right. Today, nobody does that. If I wrote half the things that I encountered working with computer people in a broadcast environment, either one, I'd probably be subpoenaed, or two, I wouldn't be able to walk the streets of anywhere because they'd be out there, they'd be after me. I mean, it was just ridiculous, some of the things that the people would say to me. I mean, switches, something as simple as a switch. I mean, well, granted, a switch is not simple, but the simple application of a switch. I can't tell how many times I had people put unmanaged switches in a network environment that required managed switches and telling me the problem wasn't the switch, it was the devices plugged into it. And I'm like, really? Yeah. The lights on the switch are almost steady lit. They're not flashing.
Yeah.
Well, they're supposed to be. I said, no. The light is an indicator of traffic. I said, when it's steady lit, that usually means it either is flooded, can't handle what's going on, or something else is wrong. I said, that's not right. I kid you not. I had a manufacturer telling me I was totally wrong and that the switches they selected were totally fine for the application. I was like, really? Okay. And we did that little A/B test again. Me and a few of the guys one night decided we're just going to switch out and see what happens. Yeah. Funny thing now, the new procedure for that particular manufacturer's product and switches that you're supposed to use, it's not that other one anymore. It's now a managed switch. So let's
move on with our preview here. One thing we rarely talk about on the show is radio automation, and I'm just going to give this a short shrift. This is OpX, and OpX is an automation that is. I guess this came originally does it have its roots in Simian? I think it might.
Yes, I think it does.
It's becoming very popular, and all the Cumulus bought the company, so the Cumulus stations tend to use OpX. But this is Kid Credit in the morning, and he's bless his heart, he's using an Axia console. I didn't really know that until I flipped this magazine open. But OpX is popular and is also gaining popularity. Yes, they have an app that goes on your iPad, so you can control your radio station from your iPad. There's lots of ways to do that, but an app would be one way. It seems like every year at NAB, different automation manufacturers have, new features. Enco, for example, last year had a new feature where you could run just a whole bunch of stations from a decent-sized server, decent-sized Enco server, and people just have so many new features there. I have never played with that Rivendell automation. It runs on Linux, and I guess it's either free or open source or something. Have you ever played with that?
I think it's open
Chris?
source. No, I have talked to many folks who have used it, have enjoyed it. It does take there's a little bit of a learning curve.
I'm sure.
I think most folks I've talked to have used, I think, like NPR stations. I think a lot of NPR folks use it. But from what I've heard, people have used it, do enjoy it, but it's a little bit of a learning curve.
That's because since they're not funding public radio as much, now the grants are for things like Rivendell. Oh, it's free. Hey, here's something cool. I'm happy to talk about one of the competitors here. It's Comrex, and they have this Stack VIP and VIP QC. This is an app for your listeners to use to call into your Stack VIP phone system, and that's pretty cool. I guess it wouldn't be right to at least not mention that Telos has something similar, although the way that the Comrex guys are promoting it is very cool. Works with their Stack VIP, which is a POTS and IP phone system. So
I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of that.
You are. Hey, go to the WXYZ website and download the app on your iPhone. Use that app to call in. You'll be first in line. And you'll sound better, too, because you'll be using G722, basically. Now,
right.
This is cool. I think it's time that this came out. Here's an appliance from Innovonics. Their 610 Internet Radio Monitor. You use it to monitor a stream. It gives you pro, XLR outputs, analog or AES, self-logging alarms that check for audio loss, stream loss, and internet loss, and an easy-to-use tuner that decodes audio and displays live metadata for MP3, OGG Vorbis, and AAC formats. Interesting, it doesn't do WMA. I think that's good. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah.
And it's got a good-looking front panel. It's got this, it looks like it might be an OLED display on the front that shows you the metadata about the stream itself. This is I think this is about $1,000 item. Oh, there it is. Yeah, $990. Man, if you stream some stuff, sure, you can have a computer checking all that, but might you not want a hardware device like a tuner to do that? I think that's cool. Innovative. I think you'll see some more of these things on the market. But hats off to Innovonics for coming out with that. Let's see what. Oh yeah, next. We've never talked about furniture on this show. Here's the folks at Omni Racks. I don't know if you like their stuff or not. They sure know how to cut curves, don't they?
Oh yes, yes.
Their CNC or saws or whatever it is they have that cuts out their wood. Man, they can make some curves. I've put some of their furniture together. I like it. It's simple and effective, and it's simple lines, and it just sits there and does what it's supposed to do. That's there's a KCLU in Thousand Oaks, California. Nice audio console. So, OmniRacks, good folks. Like that stuff. Now I asked you earlier about video for radio, and here's a product from Rushworks. These guys at Rushworks, they tend to make low cost automation for television.
Yes.
And this is the V-Desk radio TV system, and it uses PTZ, point tilt zoom cameras, and then you control them from a iPad app, so you switch which cam is in your feed. Now, tell me, I've seen this cute appliance that you guys at Music Cam make, and it's got a flip up monitor system on it, and then some controls on it. What I'm talking about? That's the
KuzNet, we call it. Oh yeah, it's a portable bidirectional video IP.
What is it?
What's that?
What's it really intended to do? What's the intended application for
it? The application that we're finding people enjoy using it for is home studios. So say you're a Fox News Channel operation, and you've got, say, Bill O'Reilly, and he wants to have somebody on the show from their home or from some remote location. Right now, the setup requires a large footprint. This box was designed to sort of reduce the footprint and let you get some places faster than you normally would. It's bidirectional. It's H.264. It can do HD. It can do SD. But the idea behind it is to give you solid DSP-based, real-time OS, first mile video. Just get connected, get up and running, and off you go with all the regular professional video stuff you need. From Genlock on the studio side to lip syncing materials and all the various things you have to do to keep things in order. That's the primary. And then the secondary application, which we have a customer in London using it for, and United Arab Emirates, and it's for remotes, actually going out to places where they can easily send an OB van or outside broadcast van, or what we call here in the States an ENG truck or a SAT truck. You take this in a car, you can go to somebody's place, and maybe they want to be a little more intimate with their interview. pop this on the table, plug into a cable modem, or if they want to, a BGAN satellite terminal, very popular is in Europe, Inmarsat. And off you go. You do your stuff. So that the idea is to give the workflow a little more quicker, easier, pleasant-looking approach. Could you use something like a Canon handheld camera plugged into a video card, into a laptop, into a FireWire, blah, blah? Sure. But we talked about this earlier, what happens when you start making things do stuff they're really not designed for. You only have one chance at the interview.
Yeah. I'm looking at this. Yeah, the iCoosNet. This is a very cool box, and it can connect via satellite, 3G internet, local storage. You get IFB return. Yeah. So yeah, it's the remote end of a TV production facility, isn't it?
Yeah, and basically, you take that box in a Pelican case with your lav mics. You have a Pelican case for your 3-light camera, 3-light kit. And then you have your cameras. It takes 2 camera inputs, so you can switch between camera 1, camera 2. So camera 1 could be on the host. Camera 2 could be a wide shot.
Now this iCoosNet product? Okay, this is kind of like Telos and other companies like Comrex and Tyline. We make audio codecs for doing live remote broadcast. This iCoosNet from Musicam USA is for doing television. Do you guys display in the television area of NAB or the radio area of NAB?
This year, we're going to be in the South Upper Hall, which is that TV? What is that considered? I'm not sure what that's considered.
I haven't been to the South Hall for any. Yeah, I was. Yeah, well, it's NAB multimedia.
It's probably TV. It's TV related.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, multimedia is just like a couple of aisles away from us. Yeah. This product is going to be in the South Upper Hall with us. We're doing audio and video in one booth setup. Something different this year. We're trying something very different because the way we deal with our customers, it's going to throw everybody upside down. They'll be like, "Oh, this is not what we expected." That's cool. But the video product, actually, we've had a couple of radio stations look at it and say that this might make sense for them because they like the idea that it's compact, rugged, it's small. You close it up, you can put on a shelf in a rack and slide it back if you choose, or you could use the rack, the 1RU studio unit in the field as well if you have a rack space. It's something. It's definitely things are moving in a different direction for video and for radio stations. The plethora of choices is just growing every month. So you could either use the V-Desk, like you were showing in the ad in the magazine, which gives you a certain type of video application, or you can look at our product and say, okay, here's what I'm doing. I definitely need this robustness, and you want something solid, and things. And it's web controlled, so you can actually control the box. Here's what's nice about it: you can actually put the box, say, in an interview environment, somebody's home, sit down, host, and the person they're talking to. And the person back at the TV studio can control the box. So the person in the field doesn't have to be a full-blown tech person that you got to spend oodles of money with and waste their time babysitting an interview. The interview is important. It's content that needs to get to the TV station. But rather than deploy a full-blown truck, you can send somebody out whose skill sets are less, but that's okay. Sets up, get the lights where they need, paint the cameras the way they need to be done, off you go. And then from the studio, they can control the box. So, and you have 2 IFB paths, so one for the actual person on air, and then you have a second IFB path for the tech person on site. So you have 2 comms that you can work with. So a lot of things in one little box that you normally have to break out into little boxes on the floor that you normally do. I think it's pretty cool, and the people we've talked to so far like it. So it's a good sign.
If you've
Comrex has a video product as well.
Yeah. Well, the live shot, right?
Yeah, and the live shot is a similar thing. It's an audio product from audio company. It's well versed in remotes, and now you're providing an opportunity to find a way to streamline with quality and what we as broadcasters expect. Repeatable, reliable connectivity. They provide it for you on the back of a camera. I provide it for you on a tabletop in an environment that's a little more expanded. 2 options right there for radio and TV. And there's another company, DSI RF, that does the same thing with a camera back unit. I think it's called NewsShock. So at the NAB, you're going to see a lot of stuff. I mean, it's wild. But I think the best part is you can mix and match everything in your facility and really have a crackerjack's operation.
We've got a bunch more to talk about in the next 15 or 20 minutes. Right now, it's time for me to tell you about our sponsor, Axia Audio. By the way, you've tuned into This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack, your host. I work for the folks at Telos, the Telos Alliance, and our usual co-host, Chris Tobin, is also with us. And Chris works for the folks at Musicam USA. Both of us used to work, maybe still do work a little bit in radio, doing engineering work for broadcast stations. Hey, our show brought to you by Axia Audio, and I got to show you this page from this Radio World Pocket Guide. And man, I hope my camera focuses on that picture. In a day or two or three, you're going to see that picture with lots and lots of Telos, Omnia, Axia gear all laid out on the front page of our website. It's a pretty impressive array. I've never seen us do a picture like this. And what does that mean? It means that, you know what, Telos, Omnia, Axia put together, I'm pretty sure we're the biggest radio studio equipment manufacturer on the planet. Maybe so. I can't think of a more complete line of stuff. There, Andrew's put up the picture of the rack and the desk. Those are our two small consoles. In fact, I've got one of those at my stations in Samoa. I've got the rack console. It's in our newsroom. Here, let me just give you a couple of really interesting things about Axia's IP audio. You can connect so many different pieces of equipment to Axia. Now that Axia and the folks at Ravenna have a standard together for IP audio, this opens up the world even farther so that Axia gear can talk to people, manufacturers who have agreed to install the Ravenna standard in their gear. So we announced this about a year ago at NAB, and stuff does take time to work out all the details. But instead of 50, 60, 70 pieces of gear that can connect to an Axia Livewire network, now you're upwards close to 100 different pieces of gear from 25, 30, 40 manufacturers, something like that. Sorry, I don't have the numbers all straight, but it's a big constellation of companies that are making their products. A lot of them still have AES or still have analog ins and outs, but now you've also got a Livewire or a Ravenna, like an IP audio in and out, so you can talk. And we've mentioned this on previous shows. There's a new standard that is emerging that Axia is going to be able to talk to just like this. So will Ravenna. It's called the X192 standard. And at the NAB show, our Chief Science Officer, Greg Shea, will be giving a presentation about that. But anyway, back to the sponsor, the folks at Axia. I want to point out there's now 53,000 Livewire equipped devices out in the field right now. Right now, 53,000 boxes in broadcast facilities around the world have a Livewire jack on them, and that number obviously grows larger every day. Telos is a sponsoring charter member of the AES X192 committee. As a part of this group, Telos is working to merge together to bring the best ideas from competing technologies to establish a single industry-adopted AES standard for IP networks. If you're looking at building studios or just building a routing system, I got to dish on that for a second. There are a number of broadcasters who have said, well, we really like X and So's consoles, but we need a routing solution. And they'll look to Axia for a routing solution. They find out that compared to traditional routers, audio routers, an Axia routing network can give you what you need for sometimes 30 to 40% of the price of the big router, the traditional router that you were going to get. And in fact, we did a proposal for a major movie studio that you've heard of quite a bit. They do a lot of sound, and the AES router that they were going to get was something like $2 million. Well, doing the exact same thing in Livewire was going to get that cost under $500,000. So it was a quarter the price for doing it in the networked environment. So whether it's price or convenience, man, I just can't imagine building another studio without IP audio. And of course, I'm familiar with the Livewire brand of that. So check it out on the web. AxiaAudio.com is the place to go. And if you just want to make a snake, a simple little router, a big router, you want to add a console eventually, maybe add an STL to your transmitter site, you can do all that with Livewire and Axia. I encourage you to check it out. All right. back on with the program This Week in Radio Tech, and I wanted to hit just a couple more items here and then talk about something else. Here, a few more things to be introduced. All right. Telos is introducing a new 6-line phone system. I won't spend much time on that because they've been a sponsor in the past. Wide Orbit. Yeah, I kind of like these guys. One reason I like them is because I used to work at Scott Studios, which became DMARC, which became Google, which became Wide Orbit. And so what I keep noticing, you see these green buttons over here on the side of the playlist? Man, that harkens back to Dave Scott and Scott Studios. And I don't know, there's probably some people who say it harkened back even before that. It just looks like an updated version of SS32 that I used to be highly involved with. Let's see, there was something else here. Oh, yeah. Here's something we never talk about on the show. Chris, you're probably familiar with this. Selector.
Oh, yes.
From the folks at RCS. Now, RCS has made automation systems. I don't know if they still do or not. I think they do it, yeah, because there's international places still do it. But they make this software called Selector, which, if you don't know, Selector is how they schedule music at music-based radio stations. You don't want the same artist to play back-to-back or maybe even in the same hour. You don't want the same artist to play at the same time every day. So when you're scheduling music, you have to look at history and see, did this artist play? You don't want to play all your top 5 hit songs all in a row unless you're playing 5 songs in a row. So this is called Selector to Go. And so the music director of a radio station can use his iPhone or his iPad to probably schedule music for the next day, change the schedule, adjust the schedule, how things are scheduled, mark a song. I never want to hear that song again on my station, and take care of all that kind of stuff. Chris, what do you know about programs like Selector? Does engineering cross paths with this kind of stuff very much?
Oh, sure. Usually setting up the computers, file servers, and things of that sort. Setting up displays in the studio. Now with the newer versions of Selector, there's a lot of stuff they did. I can't think of the name of the program, but it was part of the marketing for promotions and doing giveaways. But Selector is it's got to be the premier music programming software. It is so powerful that I've met program directors who are power users of it and can program stuff that's just, it's wild the way they do it. And the stats you can get and the information you get out of it is just unbelievable. And over time, with the technology improving, now you could use your iPad to do stuff. So a PD could be anywhere in the world and check in on a station and see what's going on and see if the jocks have been properly playing stuff and doing what they're supposed to. It's pretty cool. I mean, there are not too many other programs out there that is powerful from what I've heard from folks. That's like the de facto.
Tom Ray's checking in with us. Hey, Tom. How you doing?
How are you? How you doing, Chris?
Excellent. Hey, Tom. Good to hear you.
Do we have video from Tom?
I'm sitting here. I've got sorry I'm late. First of all, I had a date tonight with 2 very beautiful women, my daughter Sarah and her roommate Bonnie, and I'm here up at Mohawk Dorm at SUNY Canton. So
they have internet at the dorm?
Nice.
They have business class internet at the dorm. She has 96 cable channels. She's got her cell phone. She's got a refrigerator. She's got her microwave oven. Didn't have this stuff when I went to college.
No wonder college costs so much now. Oh my gosh. So Tom, while you're here, and I don't know that we've got you for the rest of the show, and we don't know if we're going to go over or not, but we were talking about NAB, previewing just some of the stuff at NAB. I'm going to hit a few SBE items before we go, but Tom, you are going to NAB, and you're moderating at least one panel, because you're moderating the panel that I'm a speaker on, right?
Yes, on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock, it's the IP for radio, which I think is a very important session, because as you know, Kirk, and as a lot of us know, that our jobs are changing. There's a lot more IT in the workplace these days, no matter what you're doing. So, and you happen to be the first paper, so you better watch out.
I'm going to try real hard to be a hard act to follow.
Excellent.
That's
how
what
it
I'm
should
afraid
be.
of.
I'll tell you what, we're going to have fun. If you're in the audience, if you're going to NAB, You got to come to this Sunday 1:00 session. It's room S227, I think. And yeah, it's about making IP audio reliable. We kind of did the paper last week here on the show, and we had some. I made a couple of changes and updates in my plan, and we're still going to do 300 ping pong balls. So it's going to be an unforgettable half hour. I got to squeeze it all into half an hour.
I bet it is, and if anybody goes out there on the street vendors, pick up some tomatoes, you can throw them at Kirk. I'll make sure I don't.
So Tom,
who else is on the panel?
Yeah.
Well, these are just individual papers, Chris. It's not necessarily a panel. So.
Okay.
Tom's having all effort to introduce people. Yeah.
There are a lot of good topics.
So Tom, at NAB this year, this is the first time in years you are going as not the chief engineer of WOR.
That's correct. I'm going as the president. Tom Ray Podcast Consulting.
Yeah. So how does that affect what you're looking at? What are you going to be spending your time with looking at or talking to at NAB?
Well, I'm going to be spending some time talking to potential customers, potential clients, and I'm also looking at least one FM transmitter for a client. I'm looking at different IT solutions for example, title and artist data and metadata for radio. So I've got a lot of different things I'm looking at for various clients, and to see what's out there, and hopefully come away with a little bit of business. Are
you the kind of guy? Do you map out your trip through the expo hall, or do you just know a few places you're going to go and wander about aimlessly the rest of the time, like I do?
Pretty much what you're doing, Kirk. I've got several things I want to do, several things I want and need to see. But besides that, I'll just be kind of wandering aimlessly to see what's there, because sometimes when you do that, you tend to trip over something that's really neat.
Yeah, and usually a time suck. So you got to somehow stay on track to go see the things that you want to see. So a new FM transmitter, is there a technology that you're looking for? You want to verify something you heard?
No, there's a, I did notice, for example, on the Harris page, looking at their website the other day, I don't see the Z series of FM transmitters anymore. So, it'd be interesting to see what they have to offer, especially since they have a new owner. And there is a new a new Italian transmitter company new to the United States here, and I want to look at that because one of my clients has talked to them already, and they said, you really should look at these transmitters. So I'm going to do that, and see what they look like, see what they offer, and see what we can do.
Yeah, definitely look at those guys. I saw them last year at the NAB. It's actually fascinating, and you could appreciate it. Look at the design and how they've packed in this small footprint a very powerful box, and how they've handled thermal control and RF management. I mean, it's pretty wild. It's definitely something worth looking at.
Yeah, I saw their website, Chris, and it definitely looked interesting. It looked really, really interesting. So I look forward to talking to them. One of the things that I will be talking to several people about is, as we talked about last week here on TWIRT, the slow demise of ISDN, and are we going strictly towards an IP solution, or are there other methods to replace ISDN? And I've got several clients asking about that. So should be a good show. Should be a very interesting show.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be great.
Tom, SBE has a presence at the NAB shows. You're fairly tuned into SBE. Are there some events that SBE is doing that you're interested in?
Well, definitely. They have the annual membership meeting, which is on Tuesday at 5:00. Not quite sure which. It's definitely in South Hall but I'm not sure the room. That's always a good time. You find out what the SBE's been up to. You find out what may be coming up, what they're working on, and of course they're one of the co-sponsors of the Broadcast Engineering Conference, which Kirk is where you're presenting your paper. So they've got a lot of things going on. They've got their booth. You can sit around. You can actually talk to the president of SBE, where you don't always get that chance to do that. And you get to meet the people from the corporate office in Indiana, and they're a bunch of good people. It's a really really good thing to talk to these people and see what they're all about and what they're doing, especially if you're not an SBE member. Now's the time to talk about it.
So I want to hit a couple SBE items, and here's one that came across my desk yesterday in the SBE's newsletter. The question is asking, has your SBE certification lapsed? And the SBE has this thing they're calling the Jubilee Project. It's SBE's. Is this their 50th anniversary? Is that 50th anniversary of the SBE? And for a year, the SBE is offering you to get reinstated a certification that you may have let lapsed anytime over about the last, I think, 10 or 15, from 1999 to 2012, so a 13-year period. If you let a certification from the SBE lapse, you can get it reinstated. Now, of course, there's money involved, and different fees for different certifications, and you have to provide information about what you've been doing that would justify them recertifying you. The point here is, if you've been certified in something, you don't have to take an exam to get recertified in. If you can show, and I don't know how much it requires, but if you can show a certain amount of activity and learning and participation in that area that you're certified in, and some money, and you can get recertified. I thought it was pretty interesting. I let my CBNT lapse, and I intend to I think I've got some IT experience. I intend to get it recertified under this program. What do you think about that?
I think that's a good deal because, what a lot of people may shy away from with the certification program is the recertification. It's not that hard to maintain your certification. If you have maintained a broadcast job, a broadcast position, if you have worked in the industry, if you have gone to SBE meetings or taken on several different maybe you took a class, maybe you took a course, maybe you went to a seminar. All these things count towards recertification, and a lot of people just don't realize that. But in this case, you're right. If you don't have to take the exam again, why not? I mean, they're going to ask questions, obviously, because as opposed to, for example, when you used to take the FCC exam to get a license, you took the exam one time, you had a license, providing you didn't do anything to put that license in jeopardy. You maintained the license for the life of it, but you never had to keep up with the technology. The SBE certifications require you to keep up with the technology, and that they're going to be asking those questions, and legitimately so, to make sure that they can just reinstate that lapsed certification. So I think it's a good idea, and it's a good program. And if you have had a certification lapse, if you're watching this, why not check it out and find out what you need to do?
By the way, you mentioned that membership meeting, the SB Spring membership meeting, Tuesday at 5:30. I just found the location. It's in the South Hall. You're going to be familiar with the room, S227.
Oh, yes. That's the room.
Yeah, that's the room we're in. So
it'll be the one with tomato juice on the wall, so we're all set.
Yes, it very well might.
They'll be cleaning up ping pong balls all afternoon.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Lord. I can't wait for this, Chris. I really can't. We're going to have to run video on it, the show on Tort next week. Here's
something that I think is really smart. SBE does an Engineer of the Year award nationwide, right? They're going to start recognizing a chapter-by-chapter Engineer of the Year. Well, this gives local engineers an opportunity to get recognized. I think this is a great idea. I'm already thinking right now of a couple of guys to nominate in the Nashville chapter. Yeah, Tom?
Well, I think it's a great idea too, because very often the people who get nominated, the people who win the award, are people from New York, Los Angeles, bigger areas, more well-known people. And there are a lot of unsung heroes out there, a lot of very good engineers, especially in smaller markets. That this is great. Hopefully, a lot more people will be recognized.
The last thing I want to bring up, and gosh, we're out of time again here. The last thing I want to bring up is from SBE, an education update. Wayne, and I believe it's pronounced Pacena, Wayne Pacena, has been the guy teaching some online webinars about IT. And it's been a great series of webinars. I've only gotten the opportunity to attend one of them about network masking, but it was fabulously interesting, and I learned a lot. The next one, there is one coming up near the end of April, and it's there's a cost. It's like $49 for SBE members to participate in the webinar, and it's about multicast. How does multicast work? And that's something that you typically won't find in non-broadcast courses about networking, because multicast is barely used outside of broadcast. So or getting media across networks. So please check that out. And Wayne is a very good teacher. I love his style of teaching. It's comfortable, and I feel like I learned a lot. So if you're into IT at all, check that out. Also, if at different state association meetings, I know that here in Tennessee, our TAB convention, Tennessee Association of Broadcasters convention, is in August. And we're going to get Wayne to come do a 4-hour class for engineers who are coming to TAB. It's really well attended, and this is going to be, at least if you're in Tennessee, if you're a member, it's free. You don't have to pay anything extra to attend Wayne's classes there. So a 4-hour class, and we're going to try to do like a CBNT and a CBNE testing after that class. Not that the class is total test prep, but it's at least a good partial test prep. You guys have you been seeing these webinars from the SBE? Tom or Chris?
Yeah, I've checked out a few. They're excellent. They definitely are. You can learn something from it. You definitely can.
Yeah, they're quality. They get quality people to do them. They put them on. It's done professionally. It's well worth the money.
Chris, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Tom. What? Give me the number 1 or 2 things that you're looking for at NAB. What are you going to look for outside of your own booth?
Outside of my own booth, I'm going to be looking for RF devices that do IP linking. With the talk of ISDN disappearing, and I think it's time for us as an industry. I'll just say it that way, because the people on this broadcast, or netcast, I should say, are well aware of how to do it. But there are a lot of folks I continue to talk to that just are in panic mode with ISDN being phased out. I won't say turned off, but phased out. And I think now is the time to take advantage of where IP can bring you. And I say this because from personal experience, from actually doing it, I have used these IP radio links to do remote broadcasts here in New York City. So I can tell you, when you, with the proper planning, just like planning out an STL path, okay, understanding Fresnel zones and all the other stuff you got to do for an STL path is so true with these IP radios. It's no different than if you're a TV guy doing a remote from an ENG truck and shooting 2 gig, 7 gig, or 13 gig, and remembering there's certain limitations you got to work with. So, it's time for us in radio to start realizing there's other ways to skin the cat. And that's what I'm going to look for, is radio linking stuff that I can actually do ad hoc, up and run and bypass the phone company in my hometown, in places where I control the different venues or environments. That's
terrific. That's interesting. And I think it's going to be bigger and bigger. It would be super if there are products and technologies out there that can get by with a little bit less than line of sight. I know there's cellular, there's LTE and that kind of stuff, and you're depending on somebody else to carry your data. But yeah, okay, that's what I'd like to see.
There are technologies already in place. Yeah, no, and they're designed. This is the best part. This is why you have to do some SBE webinars and start some research. Learn how OFDM technologies function. I'm just use those letters, and there's various breakdowns of the different types of OFDM processes out there in TFDM. Understand how that works, and you'll come to realize that if you have line of sight with that technology, it won't work. It relies on multipath. So it actually relies on multiple signals arriving at the destination. And remember, it's bidirectional.
That is so hard to wrap your brain around. If you have line of sight, it doesn't work as well as if it's bouncing around. It's kind of like saying, if you don't have all the right ingredients for this recipe for a cake, that's good. It'll taste better.
Right. Exactly. But I've done these broadcasts, and it's wild.
Yeah. Oh wow!
As a matter of fact, I worked with a guy who's doing. He did, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? The Guggenheim Museum here in New York City has a warehouse facility in Lower Manhattan. The Guggenheim is up on 5th Avenue and 89th Street, uptown, and they have a wireless link, I'll call it, and it's 5.8, something like that, gig, and it does not see downtown. There's no way you can go from 89th and 5th down to the lower west side. It bounces off buildings. It's non-line of sight, and they've got a 2 megabit link that they use for extending their enterprise network. And I'm sitting there looking at this about 3 or 4 years ago, going, wait a minute. They're doing this full-time every day, regular link. This is just a normal connection for 2 different remote offices. Why the devil can't I be doing this for broadcasts, remotes? So I did. I did do it on several occasions, and it worked. I actually did one of them from Tom's old studios.
We're going to have a show on things we use in broadcast that were used in other industries first, and somebody in broadcast decided to steal the idea because it was going to work for us.
Well, you know what? The great programmers
guys,
of the day used to steal ideas from other people.
Sorry, I'm getting bad data right now and a lot of packet loss, so I'm going to have to sign on out of here. Guys, you've been listening to This Week in Radio Tech, or watching it, episode number 162. It's been our NAB preview. I want to thank Chris Tobin, best dressed engineer in radio from Manhattan, New York, for being with us. Chris, thanks very much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Always a pleasure.
And Tom Ray. Tom Ray was able to join us from where are you? In New York?
I'm in Canton, New York. Now, if you don't know where Canton, New York is, look on a map, find Canada. You've pretty much found Canton, New York.
You're close to Canada.
Oh, I'm about 5 miles from Canada. If you took a map and looked at Syracuse, I am about 2.5 hours northeast of Syracuse.
Right,
literally in the middle
Valley.
of actually 4 rather large colleges up here. So that's where I am, and I'll be back down in New Windsor tomorrow night. And Saturday, I'm on a plane out to Vegas.
Well, good deal. I'll see you Saturday or Sunday. Well, I'll see you Sunday for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Give me a shout. Yeah, give me a shout when you get out there, and we'll see if we can hook up. All right, our show's
Kirk will end up in jail.
Our show's been brought to you by. I'm sorry, I'm not. I got a lot of packet loss here. I'm not here, and my Comcast 30 megabits down apparently is failing me from time to time. Our program has been brought to you by the folks at Netflix. If you don't have Netflix yet, what's wrong with you? I mean, $9 a month or something like that. But here's how you want to sign up for it. Do the GFQ network a favor. Do yourself a favor, too. Get 30 days free. Help my buddy Andrew pay for his wife's education. Go to netflix.com/GFQ. All right? Do that. If I wanted a customer, that's exactly what I'd be doing right now. Netflix.com/GFQ. Sign up. Also,
he needs new shoes.
He needs new shoes. Thanks to our sponsor, Axia Audio, on the web at axiaaudio.com. Check it out and learn something. Lots of white papers there. You can educate yourself. All right. Andrew, thank you for producing and switching our program. We sure appreciate it very much. You look great.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye, everybody.
That's all the bandwidth we can pilfer this week. Another twort has propagated, and all the transmitters and audio equipment live happily ever after, thanks to the handsome engineer and his kind, benevolent care. We'll be back next week.
Lord willing and the creek don't rise.
This Week in Radio Tech. Subscribe to iTunes and you'll never miss a show. Search for This Week in Radio Tech in the iTunes Store. Soliciting is strictly encouraged. If you like today's show, tell a friend. If you didn't like it, we were never here. Kirk Harnack's wardrobe provided by the Salvation Army and the Red Cross Disaster Relief Services. Hair and makeup provided by Penelope Garcia Hernandez-Weinberg.
He's unique, wouldn't you say?
I just want to get it over with.
This ends this transmission. Tango, Whiskey, India, Romeo, Tango. Signing off. Okay.